Hey everyone, and welcome to RUBIN'S Mind Lab, where we break down the latest research into what it really means. Ever wonder why some people seem to remember everything, from what they had for breakfast to where they left their keys, while others struggle to recall even recent events? Well, this new study dives into what makes us better or worse at remembering where we saw things, and how our ability to recognize objects plays a surprising role. Imagine you are walking through a busy market. You see so many things, right? Fruits, vegetables, clothes, people. Some of these things you recognize instantly, others you might have to look at a second time. This ability to tell objects apart, especially when they look really similar, is what scientists call object recognition ability. Now, you might think this is just about knowing what a banana is or what a shirt looks like. But this study asks a fascinating question. Does being good at recognizing objects also make you better at remembering where you saw them? And does it matter if the object itself is something familiar and meaningful, like a picture of your favorite pet, versus something completely random? So, what is this? Object recognition ability, or O as the researchers call it. Think of it as your brain's super sharp visual scanner. People with high O are really good at spotting the subtle differences between things that look almost identical. It is like having a high resolution camera in your brain. This ability is considered domain general, meaning it helps you across lots of different situations, not just with one type of object. Usually when scientists measure this, they use objects people have never seen before, so your existing knowledge doesn't skew the results. They want to see how well your brain's core visual system is working. The researchers behind this paper had already done work showing that O can be measured in different ways. Some tasks focus heavily on just seeing and distinguishing objects, while others involve remembering those objects for a short while. Even though these tasks feel a bit different, they all tap into that core object recognition ability. They're essentially testing how well you can encode and hold onto visual information, even when it is tricky. Now, here is where it gets really interesting. Object recognition is all about what identifying the object itself. But this study is digging into the where. They're asking if being good at the what helps with the where. If your brain is really good at locking in the details of an object because you have high O, does that precision somehow spill over into remembering the context around that object, like its location? It is like asking if being a great artist who can capture every detail of a landscape also makes you better at remembering the exact spot where you saw a particular mountain. So, to test this, the researchers designed an experiment. They wanted to see if this O ability connects to our memory for specific experiences, what we call episodic memory. Specifically, they focused on remembering the location of an object. They also wanted to see if the meaningfulness of the object itself made a difference. You know how some things are just more memorable because you know what they are, you have some connection to them, while others are just random shapes. They used objects that were rated as either high in meaning or low in meaning. The first idea or prediction was pretty straightforward. They expected that people would remember the location of objects better if those objects were more meaningful. Think about it, if you see a picture of a dog, you probably remember where it was better than if you saw a random abstract blob. This is because meaningful objects are easier for our brains to process and hold on to. They're like well-organized files in your mental cabinet, leaving more space to remember other details, like where you saw the file. The second key prediction was the core of the study. They predicted that people with higher object recognition ability, that O factor, would be better at remembering locations, even after accounting for other things like how smart someone is, how good their working memory is, their age, or their gender. This is important because it isolates the unique contribution of that specific visual recognition skill. But the most exciting prediction was about how meaning and object recognition ability might work together. They thought that the link between being good at recognizing objects and remembering their locations would be even stronger for highly meaningful objects. This is called the perceptual semantic synergy account. The idea is that if you are really good at recognizing objects high O, and the object is also meaningful, your brain can use that deep understanding and rich knowledge to make the memory even stronger, especially for where it was located. It's like having a super detailed GPS system that also knows all about the landmarks along the way. They actually laid out two possible ways this interaction might play out. 1. The perceptual semantic synergy suggested that high O would boost memory for both low and high meaning objects, but the boost would be much bigger for high meaning objects. The other idea, the perceptual semantic trade-off, suggested that maybe perceptual skills like O are most crucial when an object lacks meaning, because you have to rely purely on visual details. In that case, O might predict memory better for low-meaning objects. They hoped to see which of these predictions held up. So, how did they test this? They gathered participants, many of whom had already participated in previous studies by these researchers. This allowed them to use existing measures of object recognition ability, O, as well as other cognitive skills like working memory and general intelligence. They had participants complete a bunch of tasks. Some of these were designed to measure that object recognition ability, or O. These involved distinguishing between very similar shapes, sometimes with added difficulty like noise or quick presentation times. They also used tasks that involved remembering objects. They also included measures for control variables, things like working memory, general intelligence, and basic visual perception. This is super important. Imagine you find that people who are good at recognizing objects also remember locations. Is it really the object recognition skill, or is it just that smarter people tend to remember things better in general? By measuring these other factors, the researchers can statistically remove their influence to see what is left. The main event for this study was the episodic location memory task. Participants looked at pictures of objects, and each object was shown at one of 16 locations around a circle. They were instructed to memorize the location of each item. Crucially, they used objects that had been pre-rated for how meaningful they were. Some were low meaning, like simple tools, and others were high meaning, like familiar animals or everyday items. After seeing all the objects and their locations, participants were tested. For each object, they were shown it again, but this time it would appear in its original spot along with 3 other random locations. They had to pick which location was correct. This is how they measured how well people remembered the locations. Before diving into the main results, the researchers checked how reliable their measurements were. They found that measuring overall location memory was very reliable, meaning the test pretty consistently captured people's ability. However, measuring the difference in memory between high and low meaningful objects, the meaningfulness effect, was a bit less reliable. This is common because you are looking at a different score, which can be tricky. They did some clever statistical work to try and improve the reliability of this measure. Now, for the results, first, they looked at the simple connections between different measures. And here is a big one. They found a significant positive correlation between object recognition ability, O, and location memory. This means that people who were better at distinguishing similar objects were also better at remembering where those objects were shown. This correlation was pretty strong, about 0.48. Remember, a p, value less than 0.001, shown here as p.001, is like a super low flukometer reading, meaning it is highly unlikely this result happened by random chance. They also found that O was significantly related to the meaningfulness effect. This suggests that object recognition ability is linked to how much meaning helps memory for location. This is starting to point towards that synergy idea. To really nail down these findings and make sure they weren't just due to other factors, they used a technique called hierarchical multiple regression. They first entered in all the control variables like age, gender, general intelligence, and working memory. Then, in a second step, they added in the O score. What they found was that even after controlling for all those other cognitive abilities, O still made a significant unique contribution to explaining how well people remembered locations. It added about 9% to the overall predictive power of the model. This is a big deal. It means that that specific skill of distinguishing objects really does translate into better memory for where you saw them. They even did a similar analysis just using the perceptual part of the O tasks, and it still showed a significant, though smaller, contribution. But what about that interaction with meaning? They ran another set of analysis, this time specifically looking at memory for high-meaning objects, while controlling for memory for low-meaning objects, and all the other covariates. Here they found that O again made a significant incremental contribution. This meant that higher object recognition ability predicted better memory for the locations of high-meaning objects, even after accounting for everything else. To visualize this interaction, they created a graph showing the relationship between O and location memory for both low and high-meaning objects. What this graph clearly demonstrates is that the line for high-meaning objects is steeper than the line for low-meaning objects. This visually confirms that the relationship between object recognition ability and location memory is stronger when the objects are more meaningful. So, The perceptual semantic synergy account was supported. High O individuals benefit more from meaningfulness when remembering locations. So, what does all of this mean? The researchers found strong evidence that being good at distinguishing visually similar objects having a high O directly predicts better memory for where those objects were. This is exciting because it links a fundamental perceptual skill to a key aspect of episodic memory. They propose that the precision with which high O individuals encode objects might provide a stronger foundation for binding those objects to their locations. It is like having a really clear print of an object allows you to place it more accurately on a mental map. This blurring of traditional boundaries between perception and memory is a central theme, suggesting that our visual processing skills aren't just about identifying things, but also about anchoring them in time and space. They also mentioned that this might be related to how the brain processes information, with areas like the perihinal cortex building detailed object representations that the hippocampus then uses to link to context. The most striking finding, though, is how meaningfulness amplifies this relationship. When objects carry more meaning, the benefit of having high object recognition ability for remembering their locations is even greater. This supports the perceptual semantic synergy idea. It suggests that when you have a good visual scanner, high O, and the object itself is rich with information and associations, your brain can create a much more robust and detailed memory of both the object and its context. Think of it like this: a precise drawing of a familiar house becomes an even stronger memory when you also know its history, who lives there, and what it's used for. That extra semantic layer, combined with your sharp visual perception, makes the memory stickier. Of course, no study is perfect. The researchers acknowledge a few limitations. First, the participants were drawn from a previous study, so the sample size was a bit limited, and the participants were already a select group. They also focused on just spatial location, so it is not clear if these findings would apply to remembering when something happened or other contextual details. Another important point is that meaningfulness itself is a complex idea. The researchers used a rating that combined familiarity and knowledge, but this might lump together different aspects of meaning. Also, they noted that the high-meaning objects tended to be more colorful and natural, while low-meaning objects were more industrial and desaturated. While their statistical methods aim to control for these low-level visual differences, it is possible that things like color might have also played a role. So, what is the big takeaway here? Being good at recognizing objects isn't just about identification. It helps us remember where we saw things. And this connection is supercharged when the objects themselves are meaningful. It means that the way we perceive the world isn't neatly separated from how we remember it. Our visual skills and our ability to build rich contextual memories are deeply intertwined, especially when that semantic meaning comes into play. It suggests that maybe improving our visual discrimination skills could indirectly even help our memory for our life experiences. And for those of us who are naturally good at spotting details, it might give us a little extra edge in remembering the where of our everyday lives, especially for the things that matter to us. This research is giving us a deeper appreciation for how our perception and memory systems work together. It's a reminder that being able to truly see something, to recognize its fine details, might be the first step in truly remembering it. If you found this breakdown helpful, please give this video a thumbs up, leave a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe to RUBIN'S Mind Lab for more explorations into the fascinating world of psychology. Thanks for watching.